Hello, friends, both old and new. I'm John St. Baptiste, and this is Music Makes the People Come Together, where we share amazing and eclectic music with amazing and eclectic people, much like yourselves. This is the Season 4 playlist for Game of Thrones. If you've been following this, you know what's going on. If you don't, I am breaking down every episode per track and throwing out the song that stands out most to me as defining that episode, or at least a certain moment in it. So, that being said, let's dive right into this. First episode, Two Swords. Okay, there's this amazing scene where Arya and Sandor Clegane walk into the tavern, and Arya gets to come across the people who have affected her in a pretty poor manner, and the Hound also is really not fond of them because they're Lannister banner persons, and he kind of said this thing, I believe it was "fuck the king." So they walk in, and Sandor has to eat all the chickens, and they start a fight. I picked "Walk" by Pantera. Uh, it's an awesome track. Plus, also, if you have the opportunity, please take the track, turn off the sound on your telly, and just hit play right when they walk in the tavern. It's perfect. I've always said if I ever got into like a big nasty brawl, this is the music I would want to be playing during that, and I think it works awfully well. Moving on, second episode is The Lion and the Rose. And this is the episode where we say goodbye to Mr. Joffrey Baratheon. And I picked Margaret Allison and the Angelic Gospel Singers doing "You're Gonna Reap Just What You Sow." Uh, I don't think anything else even needs to be said about that. I will say, I heard this in my head when I was reading this for the first time in the books. And even more so watching the television show. I just think it works perfectly. Third, Breaker of Chains. Now, this episode does focus a lot on Dany, but Dany's storyline for me wasn't the most interesting. What I do think is interesting is Baelish and how he is coming out about his real motives. I mean, he does save Sansa, but you kind of see that it's not an altruistic type of saving. And then Jaime's whole conversation with Cersei. And of course, Ollie looking at his family. And I chose He's Gone by the Grateful Dead. I think this works now. You know better, but I know him. He'll steal the face right off of your head. Hey, perfect. Plus, I got to sneak some dead in anytime I get the opportunity to. Episode 4, Oathkeeper. This is a pretty intense episode, and it has some intense moments. And trigger warning: this track can possibly disturb some people. But I picked "Blood Roses" by Tori Amos. More than anything, because of Littlefinger's creepiness, Marjorie and her whole whatever she's doing with Tommen, being the little temptress, and I mean, crucifixion. Come on, lots of crucifixion going on this episode. It's some pretty intense stuff. Next, we have first of his name. This is where Tommen gets crowned. And I chose, and I believe from here on out, most of the list is all live recordings. I tried to get as many live recordings for this as possible. A few of the tracks I just couldn't find a good one, and I wanted to give the best quality work that I could find. So some of them are not live, but uh, this is Queen at Hammersmith in 1979 doing "Save Me." Uh, that's how Sansa feels the minute she meets her aunt. I mean, seriously, save me. Like I'll take Baelish over you any day. Also, this is the episode where the Hound talks to Arya about her mantra that she has. Her she can't even go to sleep without listing the names, and then she says his name, and he actually looks at her and he's like, "That's kind of badass. Like you just did that right in front of me." I thought that was pretty cool. Next, we have my favorite episode of the season, The Laws of Gods and Men. And I chose, because this is about Tyrion's ridiculously lopsided, unfortunate trial, I chose And Justice for All by Metallica. I think this perfectly just describes the whole thing. And it may not be quite on the level as the monologue that Peter Dinklage delivers, but it's pretty close. I mean, this is a good track. It's a good track, good song, good album. By the way, hashtag should have been Lars. We won't go into that though. Following that episode is Mockingbird, and I chose Death Don't Have No Mercy by Hot Tuna because it's almost for an ironic factor, because actually this episode you see that death does have mercy. Like Jorah gives the gift of death to the man who is suffering and bleeding and in awful pain. Or I'm sorry, Jorah, Sander. In that, to me, like really showed the character's humanity. Also, you have Oberyn saying, "Hey, Tyrion, yeah, I'll back you up. I'll, I'll do your trial by combat. I'm game." Um, and then of course we have the interesting situation where Lysa discovers that she might flap her arms as much as possible, but she's not going to fly. Not for very long, anyway. Um, yeah. Question for you, if you want to leave it in the comment section down below. What to you was the most satisfying death in Game of Thrones? This wasn't mine. This was like my third. But what to you in Game of Thrones, the TV show specifically, not the books, not the Ice and Fire books, what was the most satisfying death? This was my number 3, but my top 5 are pretty big. And I got 2 of them this season, which was kind of awesome. Following that, we have the Mountain and the Viper. Now, yes, we have the awesome duel between Oberyn and the Mountain, which is just great. I mean, it's so visceral. It's really awesome to watch. Oberyn talks too much. Otherwise, he would have won. But for me, the big takeaway in this episode is actually when Dany tells Jorah, "I don't trust you anymore. Bugger off." And so I chose Elton John. This is a live recording from 1989 doing "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me." Because I think as for me, like, like I said with these lists, I pick what to me are the big moments. And when he's walking off, I think that's exactly how it felt. I it, it's pretty intense. Honestly, more than watching Oberyn Martell get his skull crushed, literally. This was the most intense, emotionally intense moment for me. So that was my choice for that. Next, we have Watchers on the Wall. All right, get your hankies out. For those of you who are not familiar with this track, it is an extremely emotional track. I chose Goodbye Saigon by Billy Joel. It's about soldiers who were in Vietnam, and it's a pretty cool track because it doesn't talk one way or the other about whether things were right or wrong or anything like that, but it talks about the aftermath for the people who had to deal with it, and I think that's really intense. We met as soulmates on Paris Island. We left as inmates from an asylum. Like, yeah, Billy Joel once in a while, like he can write lyrics like I don't even know what, and so that was pretty intense for me. That was pretty, and I think it just perfectly suits this episode and the emotions and feelings that the men on the wall are having here. Finally, we end with the children, and I picked Marcus Schultz's remix of "In the End" by Linkin Park, Tomorrowland, 2017, because this, to me, I picked this remix because I love this remix, but the song, perfect, it it has to be exactly what's going through Tyrion's head. I tried so hard and come so far. In the end, it doesn't really matter. Like, oh, and then I'm the type of person I hear this music going on in my head when I watch things, so that's why I do this, and I hope you enjoy it. But I just that was the moment I that was the song I had at that moment. So there's my playlist. There's season 4. I hope you like it. If you do, please hit that thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you know when I put new stuff up, which is pretty often. And also share this with somebody if you think they would like it. Please leave comments in the comments section down below. Let me know what you think of this video. Let me know what you think of the playlist. Let me know if you have a track you think might have been more apt for something. And regardless, share music, because that's what this channel is all about. I share music with you. You share music with me. We'll share music with each other. So I'm going to let you go check that music out. And please, A, put Walk On and watch that scene. B, PLUR. And C, be excellent to one another. And party on.